cocoa-colored face with those striking blue-gray eyes, a potentially distracting pair for any woman fool enough to gaze into them too long, and his ultra-sexy dimpled jaw. She had to hand it to him. He was as handsome as any male could get in her book, hands down. A soft smile lifted the corners of her lips as she thought that this was bound to be an interesting season. Already a number of the women on the set were vying for his attention. The show's director, Fraser Glenn, would just love that. "Cut! Good scene, everyone. Let's move on." Fraser's words had Rachel moving quickly toward the producer, John Gleason, and Livia Blake, a model and budding actress who would be guest starring on the show for a few episodes as Dr. Sonia Duncan. The scene they had just filmed was an emotional one in which Dr. Duncan had broken the news to a devoted husband that his wife had died of cardiac arrest. Livia would be in the next scene as well, and it was Rachel's job to refresh her hair and makeup. And since Rachel was also the wardrobe designer for the show, she needed to verify John's request for a change in the outfit Livia would be wearing in the scene they would be shooting later today. Rachel flashed a look back to Ethan Chambers, and her gaze raked over him once again. The man by his side was doing all the talking, and for a quick moment she detected a jumpy tension surrounding Ethan. She had been around enough actors on their first day on the set to tell he was nervous. That surprised her. If anything, she would think a man with his looks would be brimming over with self-confidence, even arrogance. If he wasn't, then he was different from Eric Woods in more ways than one. Ethan Chambers took another sip from the water bottle, wishing it was a cold beer instead. He couldn't believe he had finally gotten his lucky break and was here on the set of Paging the Doctor, playing the role of a neurosurgeon. He wasn't a hospital maintenance man or a victim who needed medical care, but a doctor. He had landed the role of a lifetime on what was one of the most top-rated shows. He would even go so far as to pinch himself if there weren't so many people around, and if his agent, Curtis Fairgate, wasn't standing right next to him, smiling, gloating, and taking it all in. And of course, Curtis was ready to take credit for the whole thing, as if Ethan hadn't worked his tail off to get where he was now. He thought about the 3 years he had studied acting abroad while doing some well-received but small theater gigs. He could finally say he was now building an acting career. Even his older brother, Hunter, who had tried pressuring him to stay in the family business, was happy for him now, and that meant a lot. "You do know your lines, don't you?" Ethan lifted a brow, not believing Curtis would ask such a thing. "Of course. I might be nervous, but I'm not stupid. I'm not about to screw up my big break." "Good." Ethan pulled in a slow breath, wondering how he and Curtis had managed to survive each other for the past 2 years. Hollywood agents were known to be pushy, cynical, and in some cases downright rude. Curtis was all three, and then some. Ethan only kept him around because they had a fairly decent working relationship, and Curtis had managed to land him a spot on this show by talking to the right people. But Curtis probably would not have managed that if the sister of one of Ethan's former girlfriends hadn't been the current lover of one of the show's writers. Curtis began talking, rambling on about something Ethan had no desire to listen to, so he glanced around, fascinated at how things were going and what people were doing. He had been on the set of a television show several times, but this was his first time on one that Fraser Glenn directed, and he couldn't help but admire how smoothly things were running. The word around Hollywood was that Fraser was a hard man to work for, a stickler for structure, but he was highly respected in the industry. Ethan was about to pull his concentration back to the conversation he was supposed to be having with Curtis when his gaze settled on a gorgeous, petite woman wearing a cute baby doll top and a pair of wide-leg jeans. She was gorgeous in a restrained sort of way. He figured she was an actress on the show and wondered what role she played. She couldn't be any taller than 5'2", but he thought she was a sexy little thing with her short, dark hair and exotic looks. And she was smiling, which was a change of pace since everyone else seemed to look so doggone serious. "Ethan!" Curtis snapped his fingers in Ethan's face, cutting into his thoughts. "Don't even think it, Ethan," the man warned. Ethan blinked, and an annoyed expression showed on his face as he met Curtis's gaze. "Think what?" "About getting involved with anyone on this set, especially